All right, thank y'all for being here tonight. I want to go ahead and like to start off with a prayer because I think this is a good place to start for where we're going, especially tonight. So let's bow our heads, please, and let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you, Father, in humbleness, and Father, on our knees, realizing that you are the Alpha and the Omega, and we are nothing without you, Father. We come to you tonight and ask that you could please open our minds, keep our minds open, let us reason, and let us reason our way to the truth, which is you. Father, we ask as we go through tonight and things come up that we soak up things maybe we didn't know and just think about things and draw ourselves closer to you. We ask this prayer in Jesus' name, amen. All right. Last edition of the name game. This is it. We got a lot of ground to cover tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and get rolling, and let's see how far we can get because this is my last quarter. This is it. All right, so the name game, you know how it works. Give you 3 names. One of those is in the Bible. The other 2 are not. Your job is to guess the right one. All right, we got 3 of these. I think I messed up with one of these names because I saw one earlier that didn't intend to be there. But let's get started. All right, our first group of names: Zenobia, Aholibama, and Sherazad. All right, which one of these is in the Bible? I'll give you a couple seconds, and then we're going to move on. All right, hope you got your answers. Here we go. Aholibama is in the Bible. That's right, in Genesis there. So anybody get that one right? Oh, we're off to a great start. Only a handful got it. Oh, this is good. This is good. This is what I hope would happen. Because you guys have been killing me on this game. You've been killing me, which is great. All right, here we go. Shalmaneser, Boudica, and Ozymandias. Any of those names ring a bell? I'm sure that you read them in your Bible study just recently. All right, here's the answer. Shalmaneser, the 2 Kings. Anybody get that one right? Anybody? Okay, more people. Okay. So now you're getting, okay, I got you. All right, well, you got one more, okay? And here we go. This one right here is the finale. Imperator Constantino Politanus, Mahir Shalal Hashbaz, or Sinshar Ishkun, excuse me. One of these is right. Which one is it? For some of you, your perfection over several weeks is dependent on this moment. You may not be able to go home and face your mate if you don't get this right because you're not a winner. See, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of pressure right here. Here we go. Here's the answer. Mahura Shalal Hashbaz. You got it right? Awesome. Anybody else get it right? Okay, well, we got a couple. All right, anybody get all 3 tonight? Okay. All right. Okay, well, good job. Congratulations. We put the name game into the vault. That one is done, and it's time to move on. And you'll notice I got a box up here that's got pretty much the answers to all of the universe in it. And inside this box, we've got billions of years old Earth and millions of years of evolution, and there's anything you want to know about life, it's in this box. Now, if you want to know anything outside the box, you're going to have to make that decision, because if you live inside this box, then you can't believe anything outside the box. So that comes with a caveat, right? It's kind of like we're playing the old game show, right? Let's make a deal. So let's just keep this in mind as we go forward. The first thing that I thought that we needed to do tonight is a reminder that this is the end of my sharing of my journey with you. I've got way too much material, and I had to cut so much stuff out. Look, I'm just going to level with you, and this is the truth. On these types of topics, you can spend your entire adult life just trying to keep up with the different discoveries and things that are going on. It's not something that you can squeeze into little 30, 40-minute segments. So if it feels like we're on a mad dash, we are. But the first place we start at is in the classroom. Because I told you last week that we were going to go into the classroom because the teacher is going to teach us about evolution. Now, in Australia, evolution is federally mandated to teach. So they give you a syllabus to follow, and they expect you to follow it all the way through. And if you don't do that, then you're breaking federal law. Okay, so this is a good example. Let's just say that you're in a evolutionary classroom, and the teacher says, "Class, I want to teach about evolution." This is an example of what they would do. Now, I chose a real-life example. Sometimes you hear about Darwin's finches. It's kind of along the same vein, but this right here is an actual event that we can verify. So we start with peppered moths. All right, now peppered moths, they come in different colors, different shades. So in England, especially back in the Industrial Revolution time, the air was pretty dirty, of course. It was very sooty. And so they noticed that in some of the natural forests around these areas, that there was a problem. Now, let me explain to you why this is called evolution. You're about to see a change in the species. Okay, that's what you're about to witness. All right, so here we go. So here we have a tree. It has some good stuff growing on it. You can see how the lighter colored moths kind of blend in with the tree. The darker colored moths stand out. Folks, to me, it's just common sense. What do you think is going to happen? If you stand out and you got a predator looking for you, you're going to be easy pickings, right? I mean, they're not going to waste their time, look, I tell you what, let me find one of those real hard to find ones. I like a challenge. They're like, no, I'm hungry. Oh, there's one, go get it, right? So the black moths, or the darker colored moths, were not as prominent. The lighter colored moths were the dominant because they survived easier. They just did, Be like you and I going to Vietnam back in the day with no camouflage on, right? Wearing bright orange. Yeah, good luck with that, right? So it's the same kind of a thing. All right, so what would happen here is that in the Industrial Revolution, this soot started covering the trees, making it really dark. And so now you can see what's happening. What has happened here? The environment's changed, and now the darker moths blend in very well, and the lighter colored moths don't. All right? So what do you think is going to happen next? I'm sure you already know. So what's going to happen is the lighter colored moths start to get picked off, right? And as they do, their population starts to go down, which means that they're not producing as many kids. They're not mating. Their numbers are down. All right? So, and then consequently, because the darker ones are now not getting picked on as much, they're growing hand over fist, right? It's just a common sense thing, in my opinion. All right? So as they start to die off, you get down to the point where there's not that many white-colored moths left. At that point, you've got dark-colored moths, and they're the dominant. Now, after they passed Clean Air Acts and started putting regulations on everything, the forest started going back to the way that it was. So what do you think is going to happen now? Because now the black ones are sticking out, right? Sure enough, as you expected, they're getting picked off more than the lighter colors. Now the lighter color ones are making a comeback because fewer of them are dying, which means they're mating more, which means they're producing more children. And here you go. You have a situation where you've seen a complete cycle of what some people would call a species change. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't see a species change. I see what I consider to be a common sense thing, which is, yeah, if you're dying out, you're going to have low population. If you're mating and succeeding, you're going to have a greater population. It's really not as difficult maybe as they make it out to be. But the teacher will give you this example. She'll say, kids, what you just witnessed is evolution. That's right. You just saw it with your own eyes. This is a real case. You saw it. All of you were shaking your heads the whole time like you understood it. you just saw evolution. Now, I want you to see where the card trick is here. It's in the word, right? It's in the word evolution. We could call this any word we wanted to. The bottom line is that they purposely choose the word evolution because of the next step. It's a requirement to get you to buy in to what real evolution is. Because what they'll say is, class, now you take the changes that you just saw, and then you give yourself a long period of time. I'm talking millions of years, and boy, you don't know what'll happen. But you could even take a puddle of goo and all these changes are happening, and you're turning into different animals, and before you know it, you go to you, or as they call it, from goo to you. That's right. Now, you can't say that you don't believe in that because you just saw it, right? See, that's the trick. It's a wordplay trick. And the kids will say, well, wait a minute. Is that the same thing? It's evolution. And you believe in evolution, don't you? You just saw it. Now, here's the truth of it. The truth of it is that it's not really evolution what you witnessed. Really, what you witnessed is natural selection. Okay? That's really what you witnessed. Now, we know this is true because we can observe this. We see it. It's repeatable. It's a real thing. If you're a dog breeder or something, you see it all the time. I mean, the bottom line is that natural selection we know to be true, but that's not the same thing as what they call evolution. But see, sometimes they'll parse words, like they'll say, well, you can throw in microevolution, macroevolution. The closer they can stay to the word evolution, the better they are, because it makes it more difficult for you to walk away from at that point. Pretty much that's it. That's how it's taught. And now you see it, and you kind of see kind of what I see, I'm sure, which is kind of like it's almost like a snake oil trick of wordplay. Now, something interesting about this, I talked about dogs. And we see this kind of thing in dogs all the time, right? Dogs come in all shapes and sizes. I mean, all different looks. Little bitty ones, big ones, giant ones, square-faced ones, round-faced ones, really ugly ones. I mean, it's pretty much any kind of dog you want, they're out there. And they're happening because of this mating process, and they are producing other types of dogs of their kind. But the bottom line is that even though all these dogs are different, these dogs will never turn into cats. See, that's the catch to it. You can see natural selection, but that next jump, the one where it says, give it millions of years and anything can happen, we don't see that. We've never seen it. We can't repeat it. It's not observable. We can't do a lab experiment to recreate it. It is a fairy tale, to be quite honest with you, because there's no evidence for it. But it's important to keep this narrative going, because what this does is that it keeps you inside this box here. See, if the point of the box getting created was to take God out of everything. I mean, Charles Lyell, when he wrote his book about the old earth, we talked about him months ago, he said, quote, we are freeing science from Moses. Whatever that means. I didn't know Moses was an anti-science guy, but apparently big enemy of those guys. But bottom line is that that's the whole point of this. So to make that happen, in their view, the evolution, as you witnessed it earlier, has to happen, to go from goo to you. Now, I wanted you to kind of get a little bit of experience with that and understand that this is what your kids, your grandchildren, if you go right now on AI and look it up, this is what it's going to tell you. And it's going to speak of it like it's a matter of fact, like, you're completely out of this world and bonkers if you don't believe it, even though there's zero evidence for it. Natural selection, yes, but not this. Now, interestingly enough, this is what science has shown us. If you go into the genetic side again, and you look at the genetic side, scientists have discovered that every dog gets traced back to the wolf. Now that's interesting because you could start with wolves and produce any of these types of dogs you see here. Now that hits on a lot of biblical themes, because in Genesis 1:24 it says, "And God said, Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock and creeping things, and beasts of the earth according to their kinds." And it was so. It's amazing how you can go into the first chapter of what's considered an ancient manuscript, and just like last week we saw, you go into the lab, you go into the science world, and you find that what the Bible is saying is true. How do they know this? You'll have to tell me on that. This is for you to decide. The bottom line is it is striking and it's powerful according to their kinds. In other words, think about the flood, loading two of each kind, right? A lot of times people get completely wrapped around the axle of, man, how do you fit all those animals on the ark and all that kind of stuff. Two of each kind. You can take those two wolves and produce all the dog kind we have here today. But the thing about it is that these dogs can keep mating and keep changing, and they can get mutations and get all this stuff, but they will never be anything other than dogs. And you know that. Let me give you a better example. A cow. Can a cow jump over a fence? Let's say, sure, I've seen cows jump over the fence. All right, then I'm going to say, okay, well, if they go through just a little bit of change over a lot of time, eventually they can jump over the moon. Right. I mean, that's how ridiculous that it is if you think about it, right? So the bottom line is, to me, it's striking how the Bible comes right back and brings it all home. You go into the lab, you go into genetics, it has a hyperlink that says, see the Bible. Powerful. Okay, now, this is a conference that they had. I believe this was in Austria. The lady that wrote this book, she went there to basically cover this conference, to do bios, talk to the scientists that are there. They were there to try to figure out how to make evolution work. That's what they were there for. They have these kind of things all the time, by the way. And these are some of the leading scientists across the world trying to come together and figure out, okay, how can we make this work? Because it's not really working right now. I mean, we got the public believing this, but the science is not there. Okay, so this lady ended up going to this thing, and what she found out was what I found out last week when I told you about the scientists that I was in the room with. And that is, they don't agree on much of anything. They were arguing and fighting, and the things that they were saying blew her mind. And so one of the things that she said in here is, she said, scientists agree that natural selection can occur, but the scientific community also knows that natural selection has little to do with long-term changes in populations. You won't find this in a textbook, and you're not going to find this in AI. You're not going to find this in the Smithsonian Museum. You're not going to see that. But behind closed doors, this is what they're saying, okay? And they're saying that because they're scared. If they say something otherwise, their careers could be over. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next step here. And we got a flashlight. So very, very quickly, we're going to look at just the theory of evolution just from an investigative standpoint. It won't take long at all. Here we go. The first thing that we notice here is that we find that there's not really any observable or repeatable items with evolution. When I say evolution, again, I'm talking about one kind to another kind, not natural selection. So here we go. No observable at all. Now, most of you would say, how can it be science if you can't observe it and you can't repeat it? If you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't touch it, you can't observe it, there's no eyewitness, there's no way to find anything about it, how can it be anything other than blind faith? Wouldn't be a bad point. So here they have the scientific method. And I want to show you how this matches up. Remember I told you about Australia? There's a teacher in Australia that I read about that was quite brilliant. She's a believer, but she had to teach this stuff by federal law. So she taught it just like they said. She taught it from the syllabus from the top to the bottom. Now, throughout her class the entire year, she always took the topics that they were talking about and applied the scientific method to them. Now, by applying the scientific method, you can see if they're truly science or not. So up to this point, the students have seen that most all this stuff that they've gone through has passed this test. So they've just been shown the theory of evolution, and they say, let's look at the scientific method. I give it a half of an X here because you can't observe it, but you can have a question about it. Okay, so we'll give them half, all right? All right, so can you research the topic and all that? What about down here? Oh, I see what happened now. So test with the experiment, analyze the data. So as we go through the chain, we can research, we can do a hypothesis, but then when it gets to actually doing the experiment, you can't do it because there's nothing you can do. You can't repeat it. You can't. People have tried for decades. I mean, they're staying up late every night trying to find something to make this work, and it don't. So there's no data. You can't analyze something you don't have, right? And then when you get over to the report the conclusions, they don't really report the conclusions to the public, per se. But when they get to these conferences and they get in behind closed doors, that's where they talk about their conclusions, which are, we don't have anything. And this is a real problem for them. Now, to their credit, a lot of these people are beginning to have a little bit of an awakening. And this is a good thing. This is not us versus them. We're all children of God, and our goal is to get everyone into heaven with us. So if we can help lead people by using God's word, it's a great thing. Okay, so the second test, genetic entropy. Here's the thing. The part of evolution is mutations. Boy, you get mutations. Oh, and they talk about mutations like they're awesome, right? And we kind of think that as well, because when we think of mutations, we think of like the X-Men, right? So if you come to me and say, Kevin, I'm going to give you some mutations, I'm going to be like, cool. Am I going to walk through a wall, or can I fly? You know, what can I do? The truth of it is, mutations aren't really helpful. In fact, mutations are deadly and are horrible. So when you have mutations, not good. See what I got right here? This is a comic book. Now, if you went and got a comic book about what a real mutation is, you might pick up a copy of Captain Fibrosis. Captain Fibrosis, he has got a mutation. It's called cystic fibrosis. Doesn't sound much like a superpower, does it? That's because it's not at all. In fact, it's devastating. When you have mutations, they're bad things. You know what happens when you get a mutation? You get hereditary blindness, sickle cell anemia. You'll get syndromes, different syndromes, Down syndrome. I mean, listen, the reality of it is, and this is the truth, when they go to the lab, they see that we're picking up more mutations. Now, we're losing some genetic information. So that's going the wrong way, and now we're adding mutations, which is really not helping us. In fact, we're having a degradation. You may not know this, but you have given your children mutations, and their mutations in their body is more than yours. And then their children are going to pass on those mutations, and their mutations are going to be more than theirs. See, that's going down the wrong way. It's a degradation, and you can kind of see that. Firsthand, you can see this, okay? So you see this degradation. So if evolution just needs time, how can that be? Mutations will drive us in the ground. Isaiah 51:6 had this to say. Again, back to the Bible. What does the Bible say? Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look at the earth beneath, for the heavens vanish like smoke. The earth will wear out like a garment, and they who dwell in it will die in like manner. But my salvation will be forever, and my righteousness will never be dismayed. Interesting how this old ancient text talks about the earth wearing out like a garment, and the inhabitants in it dying in like manner. And when we go into the lab in real science, stuff that we can see, this is what we see. Genetic entropy in general, a degradation. There are a lot of geneticists out there that are doing studies right now that are having some startling results, showing that mankind may have peaked in intelligence and in longevity right around 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. Pretty interesting. Also, a barcode DNA thing, which I haven't looked at much at all. I mean, Alan, have you heard of the barcode DNA? Apparently this is something where they can take the mitochondria DNA and go back and basically with this piece, they can give you like a time period of how old all species are. And it also falls into this range. And then it has this beautiful death decay curve, if you will, where it shows that if you go back to, say, 900 years old as a human, that was around the starting age, which is interesting. You start hearing these things, you're like, wow, that sounds pretty biblical. Now, these things are still under investigation, so we'll have to come back and look at them at a later time. The point of it is, when you go into science, has a hyperlink that says, go see the Bible. So here's some real scientists. This guy right here, Alexei Kondrashov, is a secular biologist. He asked a question. Remember, he's inside the box. He can't see outside the box. Remember, God doesn't exist. If nature can't make it on its own, it's not real. So he's confused right now. See, you and I, our minds are open because we're outside the box. Our minds are open because we just read the Bible, talked about what's going on. We know it. This guy doesn't. He said, why aren't we dead 100 times over? Because, see, if you take those mutations and you start doing math, we would have been extinct a long time ago if their type of evolution was true. See, this is a problem for him. He has no answer for it. But you do because of the Bible. This guy here, he writes a lot of good stuff, Dr. John Sanford. He said, time will not solve the problem. In fact, the more time you have, the worse the problem gets. So when they say millions of years old of evolution, what we see in the lab in real life science is that the worse things get, not the better. We don't get abilities, unfortunately. Well, the ones that we get, not really beneficial. I read something about a beetle the other day. They're like, oh, the beetle lost its wings because of a mutation, but it actually turned out to be a good thing because somehow it didn't get blown around by the wind or something because it couldn't fly. And I'm like, how is that a bonus? You can't fly anymore. You know, I mean, that's still not a good mutation. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is the evolution train, and as you can see, it's moving backwards. See, the more time we have, the worse things get, not the better. It's common sense, really, and we see that in the lab, and it's backed by what the Bible says. Now, if we take a look at here, we'll go to one more of these, and we see that we find no transitional fossils in the fossil record. There's a fossil gap. Now, from time to time, you may see your newsfeed blow up with maybe some human ancestor or piece that somebody found, or maybe a skeleton somebody found, and they say, this is a transitional skeleton. Fact of the matter is that we don't have any of those. The ones that people have presented have proved to not be that case. The ones they think are humans are either humans or they're apes. They're not in between. And as far as animals are concerned, the same thing. You know what we do find in the fossil record? A lot of dead things that are all of different kinds, just like we see today. Now, I'm going to give you an example of some tricks that got played on scientists. Charles Darwin here had this to say. Now, this is Charles Darwin speaking, not me. He said, why is not every geological formation and every stratum full of such intermediate links? It's a great question, Charles. It's a great question. But see, at his time, he thought that over the years we'll find more. And then eventually these will be solved. What he doesn't understand is that he's in worse shape today than he was then. We have found billions upon billions of fossils. You talk about dinosaurs, you can go online and buy a dinosaur fossil. It's easy, and it's not expensive because they have so many of them. We got tons of them, but you know what we don't find? These intermediate links. This goo to you, not found. No evidence. A coelacanth. This is a good one right here. And a coelacanth was supposedly extinct about 66 million years ago. This is a fossil, an actual fossil. Now, the science community have been teaching people for decades about this coelacanth, actually longer than that. It goes back into the 1800s. About this is a real transitional fossil that proves that evolution is true. And they say that because look at this little flipper thing on the back. There's little things there that look almost like, looks like it's turning into hands. It's not typical fins. This is it. We're catching. We caught one. We caught one changing. well, I think it was back in the 1940s. A lady was at a fish market in Africa and walked by a stack of fish, and she was like, that's a coelacanth. What? Oh, yeah. And then she went and asked the guy who owned the booth and said, where did you find this? He said, oh, we get them all the time. You know, we have people that catch them. You know, it took her to the area where they catch the coelacanth. And what's hilarious about it is that the coelacanth, even though it's considered to be the missing link between sea and land creatures, was alive and well. And as you can see, not evolved. It's the exact same fish that looks the same way that the fossil did. In fact, you could even go take a swim with it. I think that's what that video was going to try to show you there. But yeah, here we go. Yeah, you can see that there's divers in there, and they video the coelacanth. Apparently, they're a little bit of a hermit. You know, they don't get out a lot. But bottom line is, as far as your textbooks are concerned, there are people who walked away from their faith, by the way, over this. And that's a true story. And there are people that died believing this. And that's what upsets me so much about these things that I'm trying to, we've got to get the word out more to try to help people with these things, because it's just not true. And whenever they find something like this, they don't go on ABC News and say, hey, by the way, we misled everybody. Just letting you know, we got this one wrong. No, you didn't know anything about the coelacanth, did you? I bet most of you didn't. Not a word. That's big news. Now, when you talk about a flood, if you read the Bible, and a flood is its own series. If you talk about the flood, you talk about all the sediment and all the geological destruction going on during that time. You're going to see fossils like this, which is a fish eating another fish. Now, how does that happen? That's like the slowest meal of all time, is it not? If everything came layer by layer, a little bit over a long period of time till we get a fossil, man, I mean, this guy's a slow eater. But bottom line is that this is evidence of a catastrophic event. These are the types of fossils that we find. Fossils that were caught in the act of fighting, caught in the act of eating, caught in the act of giving birth, which is what the Bible says about the flood. It's a catastrophic flood. That's what we see evidence for. This is actually, I think this is an Ichthyosaurus. It's giving birth. You can see it there. A fossil. These are the kinds of things that we find in real life, that we can verify, that we can say that we know for a fact what we're looking at here. Go back to this book again. She had some more comments about this. She said the Altenburg 16 conference recognized that the theory of evolution, which most practicing biologists accept, and which is taught in classrooms today, is inadequate in explaining our existence. Why don't they just tell everyone this and just be honest about it, right? Why the shell game? Why stay here when you don't have to? Come out here when you and I are, where we can see the sun and the trees and the stars and everything. There's nothing to see inside here other than the walls of this box. It's not intelligent when we do these kind of things, if you think about it. It's really not. I got some more things here for you from that conference. Evolutionary science is as much about posturing, salesmanship, stonewalling, and bullying that goes on as it is about actual scientific theory. You don't believe in the bullying part? Go look at Ken Ham's posts from Answers in Genesis and then start reading everything after that. I don't know how he gets up and does it every day. He must not read some of these. Bottom line is, it's a bad place to be. It's a lonely place to be when you're trying to tell people the truth. Bottom line is, folks, these are not creationists. These are not believers. These are not Jesus people. These are secular scientists saying these things. Let's take a look at another one. In short, it's a modern-day quest for the Holy Grail, but with few nights at a time that calls for scientific vision. Scientific inquiry has been hijacked by an industry of greed, with evolution books hyped like snake oil at a carnival. That's pretty harsh. I don't disagree with that. That's kind of what I see when I look around. On my journey, this is what I see. I get out and I'm looking, I'm like, this is it? Like, people are walking away from their faith for this. People obviously just don't know the truth. All right, now, let me go ahead and go. I think we got one more on here, I believe. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that's right. We'll talk about this box grove, man. This is a good one right here. So see, and they found a shin bone and 2 teeth on the right. Now, this is what you need to know. You hear about all these skeletons and all these fossils and all these different human evidences we have of these half ape, half men, people. This is what they will find: a piece of a shin bone and 2 teeth, and yet on the left, here is what went into the newspapers of what that looks like. How do you get that? Because when you're inside the box, that's what it's supposed to look like. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's the only way to explain staying in the box. You don't have a choice. Piltdown Man, absolute hoax. Fooled people for decades. People walked away from their faith over this one too. Guy was literally in his shop, grinding down teeth, taking bones, trying to fit them together, knowing that these were fakes, presented them out there. It was once called the missing link. Complete fraud, complete hoax. You say, why would people do that? Because they're desperate. They have to make this work. It has to work. You can't. Remember, there's no God. There's no reasoning for this. Nature has to explain this. Stephen Gould. Now, this guy is he's an atheist himself. He said most hominid or ape men fossils, even though they serve as a basis for endless speculation and elaborate storytelling, are fragments of jaws and scraps of skulls. And one guy back in the 80s said that if you took all the bones and put them together, it wouldn't even fill up a coffin. And it's not much better today. I think they said that it may fill up a few bags. They would have you to believe they got these things everywhere. Every museum's got them. They're full skeleton. They're not. They're literally just fragments. And then after that, they take them to an artist, and then the artist will do a rendering. But the public doesn't know any better. All right, so Lucy, great example. Lucy, and Al and I talked about this some time ago. This story just will not go away. But Lucy, not a human being, okay? Lucy is a type of ape. They prove that. But I want you to look here on your left. Look at the eyes. The eyes are white and look like human eyes. They asked the artist why he did this, and he said because he wanted to make it look more human and give it a soul. I mean, and this is what you see at the Smithsonian, okay? I just want you to understand the idea of what you're looking at here. It really is a lot of snake oil things going on, and it's sad, really. It's sad. We've got a lot of lost people out there. Back over to Stephen Grocott. Yeah, Grocott. He said evolution is a fairy tale for grown-ups. He grew up as an atheist, got into the lab. He said something's not right. Met a Christian. They said, have you thought about this? He said, this matches up. He's a Christian, and he does a lot of work for the Christian community in areas of chemistry. So you got to judge for yourself. You've heard a lot of evidence. You see a lot of evidence. You have to make up your mind yourself on this. But if we go to the Bible, and I've got to move quick. So I'm about to go into supersonic speed, folks. I'm sorry. All right. Do you remember the old newspapers by the cash register back in the day? They had the good old tabloids. I mean the good ones. They don't make them anymore. But I'm talking about the ones that were like redneck vampire attacks, trailer park. I like how he doesn't have all of his teeth. That's pretty good. All right, or what about the ones like this? A radioactive Fukushima duck becomes a bird photographer, and he goes by the name of Bill Mallard. That was real news, man, back in the day. But I got to thinking about something. I hear modern-day scientists. Let's think about Neil deGrasse Tyson. He said, or what if everything we know and love were just a computer simulation rendered for entertainment by a superintelligent alien species? He said that he thinks that this is probable. He said he may take it down to 50-50, but he honestly believes that we could be living in a simulation, that an intelligent designer has created a computer program, and that explains our existence. Okay. Hey, I'll give him credit. At least he's thinking outside the box now. You're getting out of that box. You're thinking about an intelligent designer now. Okay, so it's hard to argue that we aren't living in a simulation. Okay, now this guy is a very intelligent man, folks. He really is. He's a smart guy. He's a seasoned guy. He's a respected man, but he's telling people that he thinks his existence could be tied to this. And this is one of my favorites. The old stoned ape hypothesis. A guy wrote the book a few decades ago. He had the idea that early humans developed higher consciousness after consuming these mushrooms. In other words, stoned apes. That's how we got our consciousness. Now, this is real stuff here, okay? Yeah, see, there you go. Completely. See, you never thought that you would come to church and see a stoned chimp, did you? You never thought you'd see that. But I probably won't get to talk much after this. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move on. All right, so here we go. Here we are, going back to the Bible, going very, very quickly, because I've got some very, very important stuff, and I want to close this out. James Webb Telescope, amazing telescope, can see deeper and farther in space than we've ever done before. People are so excited because they said we're going to get to see the beginning of the Big Bang. We're going to see the start of the universe. So they launch this bad boy. They get their popcorn. This is what they're expecting to see. It's some kind of like a little void. But this is what they actually got a picture of. It looks like everywhere else in the universe. Mature galaxies. Everywhere. It looks no different, and they're flabbergasted. I mean, they're completely lost. I mean, they are really having problems with this because this blows up the whole timeline that they had. Everything they've had is built on this. Listen to this real quick. One of the astronomers, I believe it is. Oh, yeah, this is from the University of California. Okay, astronomer here says, how do you do this in the universe at such an early time? How do you form so many stars so quickly? These are just like questions. Again, this is what happens when you're in here and not out here. We know, we understand. It's not a problem for us. It makes sense, right? Or what about this next one here? Right now, I find myself lying awake at 3 in the morning wondering if everything I've ever done is wrong. At least they're honest, right? But their world is rocked right now, and they're searching for answers, but they're not going to find them in here. And that's where people like you and I can help them. Say, hey, let me help make sense of this for you, right? The Bible is so true. We'll go back here. This is some good stuff right here, if I can get it to pull up. Okay, so in Job, the good book of Job, it talks about Pleiades and Orion. Pleiades, God is asking Job, he's saying, can you bind Pleiades, right? That's what he said. I covered that up here, unfortunately. You go into the real world today, and you find that these Pleiades is gravitationally bound, and they discovered that they're moving through space at the same time together. How in the world does Job know that? We didn't find it out until the 1800s, and I'm talking about with visual proof. And then we have the one that has Orion as well. Let's see if I actually got that one up here. I've got to get moving. Yeah, this is Orion's belt. He said, can you loosen Orion's belt, is what he asked Job. Can you loosen it? Sure enough, found out just recently, in fact, the last 50 years, I believe, that's when we discovered this, that Orion's belt is slowly moving away. And not moving away in 2 dimensions, but moving away in 3 dimensions. Just like God said, how in the world would anyone know that information unless they were God? I mean, just think there's just no other explanation for it. And it's scientifically proven and accurate. Not gravitationally bound. Here we go. He stretches out the north over the void and hangs the earth on nothing. This is another part of Job where he tells him this. And it's so true. Our first picture of the earth, the full earth, was in the 60s. But it hangs on nothing, he said. I think he's right. By the way, quick quiz. Man, I've got to wrap up. Quick quiz. Do you know what the ancient world at the time thought was holding the world up? Anybody know? Turtles. Animals. Some of the Romans believed it was Roman gods holding it up. No, back in Job, he said it hangs on nothing. It's exactly what we see today. We see this over and over and over again. Folks, you are an intelligent crowd. You are a brilliant crowd because you listen to the Bible. You've got knowledge that people in the world don't have. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you're ignorant or that you just don't know your facts or anything. It's quite the opposite. And I've got to wrap this up because I'm way over. I wanted to talk about dinosaurs. We'll save that for another time. I'll just say this. They found dinosaur tissue. Yes, tissue in dinosaur bones. It's not 68 million years old. Blood vessels. Let me show you this real quick. I got to show you this. All right. Keep it going. Let's keep going. All right. Here we go. Terrible Lizards. You ever heard of that band in the 80s? I haven't either. Bottom line is, some people have a problem with dinosaurs because they're like, I can't find the word dinosaur in the Bible. That's because dinosaur word didn't exist until like the 1840s. The guy saw it, and he says, that looks like it would be a terrible lizard. Dinosaur. That's where the name came from. That's why it's not in the Bible. What is in the Bible is behemoth. So dinosaur and lizard, you can think of the same word. This right here is an actual blood cell from a dinosaur bone recovered that's supposedly supposed to be 65 million years old. You're seeing the blood cell right there, a blood vessel. They have found collagen, stretchy tissue. Folks, in fact, the scientists say it's almost like it's modern because it is, and they're finding them all over the world like this. It's not just in one place. Check this out. Triceratops. Watch this. Stretchy. You know what else it has in it? Carbon-14. Carbon-14 has a half-life of like 5,800 years, I think it is, maybe 5,500. Bottom line is it's not even detectable once you get to like 80,000 years. Not even detectable. All the dinosaur bones have carbon-14 in them. Just use your common sense. Make up your own mind about it. A lot of evidence out there. We'll get to all this later. The bottom line is, I got to end this, and I want to end it like this, to say that the whole point of this is that you may say, why does it matter, Kevin? Why does it matter? The reason why it matters is because it matters when it matters. Now, you can be Jean-Claude Van Damme, and you can do the splits on 2 chairs. You can do that if you want to. You can have 1 foot over into the Bible world and 1 foot over into the box world. You can do that, but you don't have to do that. The evidence doesn't say that you need to do that. The evidence is the opposite. It gives you power of knowing that you don't have to do the splits. The Bible is sufficient. Now, when I say it matters is because if you get down to the point where it's like 30% of Christians believe in evolution, and it's a theistic evolution, but I think God has something to do with it, okay? It matters what it matters, okay? So here's the bottom line. You get to miracles in the Bible. God, He separated the seas, right? He separated the seas. He did that, and then you, in your mind, you say, oh, well, there has to be a natural explanation for it, right? Well, see, what happens is that you're taking the power away from God. A God that can't separate the seas is not going to be able to raise Jesus from the dead. He's not going to be able to create a heaven or a hell. He's not going to be able to answer any of your prayers because all of our prayers are pleas and calls for supernatural help. It's God, please come into the natural world and fix this. I need your help. And that's why I say it matters when it matters. We can't take power from the Almighty. The Almighty spoke stars into existence, sent His Son, knowing that we are degrading, sent His Son as a lifeboat to get every single one of us off the planet. But even Peter says that this world's going to be burned up with fire, and everything in this box gets burned up with it. What are we going to do about it? Think about it. Thank y'all so much as always. So sorry I went over, but just too much out there.